好的，欢迎同学们来到我们第二期索菲亚大学新年系列讲座。那这一期的讲座呢，我们邀请到了 Dr. Mariana Bozesan，他是我们索菲亚大学超个人心理学博士，德国卡尔斯鲁理工学院人工智能计算机硕士，同时呢也是博桑经济会董事长。AQAL Group 创始人兼合伙人，索菲亚大学2022年杰出校友。他呢将为我们今天带来 AI 人工智能硬核前沿硬核前沿科技。
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Sorry, I stopped sharing. I'm not sure why. Am I sharing now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. 硬核前沿科技与可持续发展的未来。那同时呢，也给大家预告一下下一期，我们将邀请 Dr. 安徐、Dr. Angel Morgan、尹静静同学以及 Dr. Andrew Mill 为我们带来梦想孵化，如何通过解读梦境来设定目标。那这一期呢，将于明天的早上9点，进行讲座。另外呢，也想要跟大家公布一个好消息哈，我们冬季呢嗯设立了一个奖学金政策。那冬季学期呢，任何索菲亚大学的新生观看了一场的索菲亚新年讲座的直播或者回放，并在截止日期前提交200次的观后感，即可申请公开奖学金及校友推荐奖学金。那具体的减免政策呢，请联系我们索菲亚大学中国代表处进行咨询。好的，那我们现在讲座就正式开始啦。Dr. Lucci, yes, we can start now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. And welcome to everybody here, and welcome Dr. Bozesan, Mariana. So it's very good to have you here. And we were just saying we get to do this across all sorts of continents. And Mariana is in Munich, and we are here in the U.S. on the West Coast, and we're speaking to you in Asia. And it's amazing what technology can do, right? So Dr. Bozesan is an esteemed integral investor, serial entrepreneur, and author, and she is recognized for many of her innovative contributions to sustainable development and her insights on AI and new technologies. She's a graduate of Stanford Karlsruhe Institute of Technology. She holds a PhD from Sofia University. So she's this mix of all these different disciplines and different approaches and abilities. And she then takes all of this to provide us with new insights and new ways of investing. And I'm sure there's other insights in there as well. So she's been pivotal in leveraging technology to advance UN Sustainable Development Goals. And she has many awards as Europe's Female Angel Investor 2019 from EBAN. She's a distinguished member of the Club of Rome and a fellow at the World Academy of Art and Sciences. She's really interestingly has developed her own integral investing model, theta model, and a comprehensive 360-degree de-risking tool that integrates traditional due diligence with sustainable metrics, which is not an easy thing to do, enhancing her investment decisions in exponential technologies as well. And she is focused on both financial returns and positive social impact. So here we go. Dr. Bozesan, welcome to our Fireside Chat, and we look forward to our conversation with you. And I believe you have something for us to start off with at the very beginning.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be together with Sofia University, and I'd like to welcome everyone from China. I remember the day like today, when I was invited by the All China Women's Federation to join in the Great Hall of People, where Xi Jinping was actually greeting us and welcoming us, and that was before he became, the head of China. So I have only amazing memories with China and my encounters there, and I of course love the food. Like most people on this planet do. So today it's a great pleasure to be here and to respond to the 10 amazing questions that I was submitted by Dorothy, all of which would probably deserve whole lectures. But I put it together, tried to address it in a presentation that I'd like to share with you, and then leave some time for questions that I would kindly invite all of you to contribute, either in the chat or I'm sure you guys have a way to moderate that. So with that, if you want me to, I can share my presentation and we can get going.
Yes, we would love that.
Sorry to interrupt. Meng Yan, can you raise your volume? Because right now
Yeah.
it's hard to hear. Sorry, that's our interpreter. Meng Yan, can you raise your volume? Sorry, the audience cannot hear your voice. Thank you so much.
Is it better? Is it better now? Should I use?
So, Mariana, it's not. You're fine.
That's
It's
the interpreter.
yeah. The translator needs to raise your volume.
Oh, okay. So I shouldn't be screaming here. Okay. Yeah,
You're
let
good.
me know. Thank you for letting me know. If something goes wrong, if there is something that you don't see, let me know. And, let's
Yes,
interact and make it fun, because it's a fireside chat and it's cold here
exactly.
in Munich. So let's warm ourselves up interactively. So let me share my screen and start the presentation. So I decided to call this presentation an integral perspective into the future of sustainability investing, and including the role that AI and all the deep technologies are providing. So there is not one day where people come and ask me, should I be worried about the future, the rise of AI, biotechnology, climate change, nuclear threat, wars, and so on. And so the problem, the only timely essence that we have to address is making sure that we do have a future, because we have a climate problem. And as it's been highlighted by the IPCC, and on this very busy slide, which I cannot go into the details of, you can see that we have actually missed to stay below 1.5 warming up of the planet. And so now the responsibility we have is to stay below 2 degrees and make sure that high emissions are being reduced. So this is for the next 10 to 15 years, the only challenge that we have, and all hands must go on deck to address that. So now, why is that a big problem? Well, the problem is the planet has an operating system that is being called by scientists the planetary boundaries, and they have identified about 9. And you can see here in 2009, we had crossed 3 of them, but it's been evolving. 6 years later, we crossed 7 boundaries, and that includes, of course, water flows and chemicals and fresh water and others. And we have not stopped. So because we keep putting CO2 into the atmosphere, by 2023, we had crossed 6 out of the 9 planetary boundaries, which of course make the planet, make it planetary wise impossible to sustain life on the planet in the way we know it. So that's the problem that we have. And I'm asked to admit people here.
No, don't worry about it.
Yeah. So anyways, And one of the original authors of Limits to Growth, the very well-known Club of Rome, who has been warning about these issues like for 52 years ago, starting 52 years ago, it's Jorgen Randers, who says that humanity is stupid enough not to do what is perfectly doable to avoid climate catastrophe. And of course, I do not agree with him. And I would like to prove him wrong. I beg to differ, which is, of course, what he wants us to do. Now, because of that, I have written a report to the Club of Rome that I highly invite you to read, to try to understand what the issues are and how technology can help, for a simple reason, because we can do that in a presentation, and you may find in there important aspects. It's a scientifically proven, peer-reviewed report to the Club of Rome, and so it may address some of the questions that you have. So this is why my moonshot is the investment turnaround. How can we aggregate the necessary capital to turn our investment and entrepreneurship and financial systems to address the planetary boundaries, go back to safe operating system, and implement the UN SDGs so that there's equity within the planetary boundaries by 2050. So nobody's left behind. And that's a moonshot. That's not easy to do. But I believe that humanity can do it, because from the written word, to the Chinese wall, from Michelangelo to Bernini, all these beautiful things that we have developed, from modern medicine to space travel, humanity has proven all along that we can make the impossible possible. And this is the challenge that we currently have. And this is what we're all called to do. And humanity has created great abundance ever since the onset of civilization, from poverty reduction despite exponential population growth, to democracy increasing, to reducing child mortality, and many, many, many other challenges that we have faced, we've been able to address. So there is great, great hope, and we can do this too. However, we need extraordinary abundance. We need a lot of prosperity, money, and all hands on deck and effort in order to tackle the greatest challenge posed to humanity since the onset of civilization. So, but the good news is that today we live during one of the most successful and abundant times in human history, and I'm inviting you to take a multi-perspectival view between fear-mongering, climate pessimism, tech optimism, and most importantly, self-empowerment, because we need to take care of our own psyche in order to be able to fulfill the needs that the planet is requesting or asking of us. So let's deepen the access to the most important resource that we have, which is us, ourselves, the real us, and which is, of course, the core of Sofia University. Now, what is the agenda for today? First of all, what are the hidden dimensions? Who is unlocking net zero solutions? Net zero meaning going to net zero CO2 and below, because we need to withdraw what's already been put into the atmosphere also. Why incumbents don't see that, and why young people like you can. And then I'll dive into integral investing, sustainability, sustainable investing, and we're going to come to an end. So how far? Let's start with the first thing. What are the hidden dimensions? Now, a question to you: how far goes a piece of paper folded in half 50 times? Now, this is an important question. Most people struggle with it. You can use that at the next party and ask people, how far would you go? The answer is circa 100 million kilometers farther than the distance between the Earth to the sun. This is amazing. Another quiz that you could ask your friends during your the next party is, how much what would they rather have? $1 per day for the next month, 30 days, or 1 cent doubled every day for the next 30 days. And here you will find out that most people have a hard time, because we're humans, we don't get that. And in the first case, you'll have $30, of course. And in the second case, 1 cent doubled every day for 30 days, it's 10 million So this is exponential growth, and this is the hidden dimension. Exponential growth is hard for humans because it looks similar in the beginning. Here you see the green line, and the yellow line is exponential. In the beginning, at the bottom, you see they all see alike. You don't see it coming, and it's deceptive. And then all of a sudden, it's disruptive, and you have the stress because you see it and you haven't seen it coming. And this is exactly why incumbents don't see it and why transformation is currently not happening, because they don't get it. And so we'll go a little bit into an example. For instance, here is AI did not fall out of the sky in 2022 as most people think. I have studied AI. I'm an AI pioneer, and it started in 1956, Dartmouth, when it was first named. But it didn't evolve until 30 years later, when machine learning came online, and algorithms were developed that could handle neural nets, but they needed more data. And then the AI winter came because neither the computing power nor the data was available to handle that until 2012, when new algorithms came online and AI was ready because the data was available, the computing power was available, and then it took a lot of time, additional time, when you could see that we could actually develop the LLMs which are available today. So what is the future of AI? We speak today, we have several ways of naming AI. One is the artificial narrow intelligence, which is what we have today. LLMs are part of that. You have facial recognition, self-driving cars coming online, self-learning system, precision fermentation possible through algorithms that are able to develop new proteins and so on. But the next level is coming, which is called artificial general intelligence, which should be able, according to Ray Kurzweil, by 2029 to pass the Turing test, which allows it to achieve complex goals, to solve complex problems, to learn, plan, think in an abstract manner, and so on, which artificial neural intelligence today doesn't do. And then once you have AGI, we will move to artificial superintelligence that will make humans look like versus AI like a fly compared to Einstein. But at some point, we'll have an intelligence explosion where human brain merges with the computer, and we call that singularity. And if you talk to the fathers of AI, like Jan-Luc Kuhn, he will tell you that narrow AI, what we have today, is dumber than a house cat. So we should not be afraid. But we should be afraid because cognitively, they are further ahead than we are. But at this point in time, we are non-computable. So humans are non-computable for many reasons. We'll talk about this later on. So in my personal case, Mosaic, I don't know how many people have heard of the term, is the first browser that made internet accessible to most people, changed my life in 1994 when I first saw it in Silicon Valley. And my husband and I then came to Germany and wanted to bring the internet to, companies onto the internet, only to find out that nobody really knew what the internet was, that is going to be done by telecom and so on. But if you look at the curve here, we saw that a new era was setting on. And then we started the first internet service provider that went public on the German Stock Exchange. It was the first German stock within 2 years after founding. And that was, of course, an amazing exit for us. And particularly for me, as somebody who grew up in communist Romania, extremely poor, I went to school without food many, many years in a row. That was amazing. But that opened the door to what I'm doing today. We'll talk about this later. So why do mainstream experts don't see it? Very simple. It has to do with the exponential view and the exponential examples that I just gave. So just an example, Elon Musk, while he became a millionaire in Silicon Valley developing city guide Zip2, Bill Gates said, and I'm quoting, that it's important that the internet expectations aren't cranked too high because the numbers are really, really small. And it's impossible for people, albeit smart people like Bill Gates, to see these things. And we find that too in systems that are not transforming today. So in summary, what we're seeing are the 6 Ds of digitalization. Number one, with digitalization starts the exponential curve, which goes in the deception in the beginning. You don't see it coming, but then it goes into disruption, which is where we are today, and then leads to dematerialization, demonetization, where everything becomes cheaper and smaller, and up to the democratization, which is what we see. So people in developing countries, they'd rather not eat, but renounce to have a smartphone, for example. So who is unlocking the net zero solutions? Well, these are you. These are the people who are now coming online, the growing collective intelligence that is powered by the underlying internet. And of course, expectations for this year is out of 8 billion people, we'll have 7.1 billion cell phone users and many, many more who will be using and developing applications. So because they have internet access. And so all this collective intelligence is now leading to development, to extraordinary development in all areas. So the most important thing that I want you to note is that it's not just one technology. This is really, really, really important. It's a convergence of many, many technologies. And an example is the smartphone. The smartphone would have not been possible before 2007 for very simple reasons. The computing power wasn't there, the network capacity wasn't there. Then all of a sudden the technology, digital imaging, battery technology, and all the miniaturization came online. And with that, that made the smartphone possible. And this is what's happening now in every single industry on the planet that is now transforming towards sustainability, but we need to guide it in the right direction. So incumbents don't see it for many reasons. For instance, Steve Ballmer in 2007 said that there is no chance that the iPhone is going to get any significant market share, no chance. And something similar said Bloomberg. And also Forbes wrote that Nokia, nobody's going to, conquer Nokia, which of course, what is the role of Nokia in smartphones today is this arrogance leads to nowhere. But in the case of climate change and the planetary destruction, we cannot allow incumbents to continue that way. We need to take charge because the planet is not sustaining life. So that's the problem that incumbents are not seeing. They're not seeing and don't believe that climate change is here and we need to do something about it as soon as possible. And we only have, science tells us, about 10 to 15 years to set our economic systems to address the planetary challenges. But the good news is 90% of emission reduction can be addressed by 2035, and we can get to net zero with existing technologies today. This is extremely important. And I would like to take you through three sectors that are extremely important. Transportation is 45% of CO2 emissions. Energy, I have here a small Hold on for 1 second. So energy is one of the problems that we can address with existing technology. Transportation, 14%, and food, various types of sectors of food is 30%. And the technology to transform these sectors is available today, and it needs to be done, and it's actually happening, which is the good news. So in the energy sector, the energy disruption is occurring because 100% of solar, wind, and batteries are active, and China is a leading example in that. And for financial reasons, it's occurring. So capital goes in this direction because it's financially viable and feasible, and people can actually make more money. That's important. Even if they don't care about the planet, by doing good stuff, which is, of course, extremely important for the planet, for all of us who care and are young and want to live. So this is the beginning of the end of oil and gas and coal. And here you see how the prices went down over the past 20 years. So it's happening, and this is extremely good news. No matter what they tell people in general, this transformation is occurring. A similar thing is occurring in transportation, also for purely economic reasons, because cars are computers on wheels. And it's just as simple as that. And now we come back to what I called you before, the convergence of various technologies, not just one. It's on-demand transportation, autonomous vehicles, and fleets that are making the transport as a service available to those who request it. And of course, it's 4 to 10 times cheaper. Electric vehicles live longer. We will have 80% less vehicles in the streets, which is, of course, an amazing release for the environment by 2035. And we'll have bidirectional charging, so you could use your vehicle to powerhouse, give electricity to your home. People want transport as a service. They don't necessarily want a car that sits there for 23 hours out of 24. So here's a beautiful painting of Jan van Dyck, the Arnolfini portrait in 1434. That was Renaissance. And what makes this painting so beautiful are the colors. But if you look deeper, you'll see that the man has fur under his coat, which if you look at the size, it's mink, and there are about 400 animals who had to give their lives for his coat. And the lady, all the white fur so the breast side of squirrels fur, the little animals, the squirrels, because they're so soft. And there's about 2,000 squirrels that had to give their life for that coat. And today we kind of shiver when oh my God, we kill these animals. We don't want to do that anymore, but we do that for food. And that is about to get transformed as well. And Princess of Bavaria said to one of the Bavarian ministers that in the future, the food will come from Google Labs as a representative for the modern ways of producing protein, just to wake him up to what is actually coming, and encourage people to transition away from CO2 emitting food production to less. So the disruption in food and agriculture is also happening for purely economic reasons. And as an example here as to how is that happening and why it is happening and what deep tech has to do with it, I'm giving you an example of the insulin story. In 1970s, you needed 500 in order to extract 500 grams of insulin, you needed to kill 23,000 animals just to save a few people. And that changed in 10 years later, when insulin started to become brewed from yeast through a technology that is called precision fermentation, just like beer. And this is happening across the board right now. You can buy it in stores, artificial meat, cellular food, food production is increasingly happening like software, which doesn't mean that we shouldn't raise any cows anymore or eat any steak. That's not the point. The point is, how are we going to feed the growing population on the planet, with all the allergies, all that people have against various kinds of foods, a growing population and balance it out with the CO2 emissions. And that can be achieved with microorganisms that are programmed to produce any protein through mRNA. We've seen that during COVID, how quickly within months we were able to produce a vaccine. And this is what's going to address the future of food, where biotechnology together with information technology are converging and creating totally a new sector of transformation, and creating proteins that are using less resources, less land, less water, we need less feedstock, and so on. So this is a very, very empowering. We have the solutions available. Now, let me go back to why incumbents cannot see that. And in his book, The Collapse of Complex Societies, Joseph Tainter looked at societies that collapsed and why they did, like the Roman, the Sumerian, the Mayan societies. They collapsed because the incumbents could not change, and they kept pumping money into a system that was failing. And this is exactly what is happening right now in many, many systems, and why people are fed up with it, because the inabilities of existing structures to transform. And so we call that the law of diminishing returns, because our current economic systems are inflationary and we need to change that. And as opposed to that, we have the courageous pioneers like you and so many amazing, extraordinary young entrepreneurs and people who get it, who are currently creating the new systems, which is very, very empowering. So startups like Apple and Google won the game against Nokia, and coming back to our original statement that we need a lot of abundance, money, in order to change the new systems. If you look at what created the greatest abundance, then the biggest prosperity since the mid-1990s were the newcomers, NVIDIA, OpenAI, Apple, Amazon, and so on. So more and more are coming online, and I'll share with you a few that should give you hope, and also give you a sense of direction as to, if you decide to go in a certain new sector, which one that could be. So in my case, I came across artificial intelligence in 1983. I didn't particularly like programming in Pascal, but once I discovered object-oriented programming, I just loved it, and I decided to move in this direction. And here's a photograph of me with the Stanford professor in artificial intelligence. And so coming back to why AI all of a sudden showed up this year, is because of the convergence again between computing power, data available online, deep learning AI algorithms, and network capacity, and of course, brains of amazing people. So for the first time in human history, we have a huge opportunity, and Ray Kurzweil calls this the law of accelerated returns, as opposed to the law of diminishing returns, and if you look at the curve, here's a logarithmically driven curve. Many people talk about the Moore's law as being so important. It is important, but this evolution started already 120 plus years ago. And Moore's law is only the fifth paradigm in those series of paradigm changes that occurred over 120 years. And so we're now riding this curve, and it's just at the beginning. If you look at the exponential curve, we're just the beginning of this evolution. And the important thing is that the speed, the cost effectiveness, we talked about how cheap that the technology is, and the power of evolution increase exponentially over time because collective intelligence is available online and is contributing to the evolution of humanity, and we need to guide it in the proper direction because the planet is asking us to. So anyways, this is just the beginning because and some people like Peter Diamandis say that tomorrow's speed of change will make us look like we're crawling, and it's true. If you have followed that, you know that this is true, and this is should give us a lot of hope. Of course, we need guardrails for AI, unethical AI, and so on. We can talk about that during the Q&A. But here, just a key word. The future is not AI in the traditional sense. The future is in the quantum abundance or quantum information science, quantum technology combined with artificial intelligence. But that would be another lecture for this. So why incumbents don't see it and why you can? Well, we talked about this already. I asked myself the same question, and this is actually the topic of my dissertation at Sofia University, because I saw what happens with those leaders who, why don't they see it? How is it possible? Everyone else does. And so this has been published in a book, Consciousness, Leadership in Business. And the point is here, if you look at this picture, what do you see? You see an old man, but if you look closer, you see, of course, a kissing couple. And so people always start with themselves, and the world is like they think, and not as it is. And so this is part of the problem. And one of the questions that Dorothy asked me is like, what is the difference between traditional investing and integral investing and so on? Where do we stand? Well, given my background, growing up very poor in communist Romania, and then my first IPO, I looked and I learned philanthropy from my parents who were workers, and from the little that they earned, they gave to those who had less than them. I learned philanthropy, which means love of people. And if after my first IPO, I looked at what's actually going on, these systems are schizophrenic. And how can we integrate them and get out of stuff that doesn't serve us, but it hurts us? So if you look at traditional investing, they try to push the profit and Wall Street higher and higher, while you have on the other side philanthropy that is trying to offset Wall Street, which of course, that's the birth of schizophrenia. We need to integrate these systems. Not an easy thing to do. Now, since the early mid 80s, the so-called impact investing was born, where people wanted to invest with their values. But if you look at impact investing, you have the same kind of schizophrenia. Those impact investors who want to invest with impact first versus those who want to invest with financial first. And the truth is in the middle, it's integrating. You cannot make money at the expense of social, environmental, human happiness and joy. So this is the place that integral investing is staking. We need an integrated view of everything because we're whole-ons. We're humans that are part of a greater whole-on. But that requires, of course, awakening. And this is the hero's journey that I analyzed in my dissertation, where people with high intellect, I interviewed amazing Silicon Valley millionaires and billionaires who have gone through this hero's journey where the high intellect didn't make them happy because they made, so much money, but that didn't make happy when the marriage fell apart or a child died or a catastrophe happened or they got sick. And so they had to go through the emotional breakthrough to the soul searching until they woke up to unity consciousness, to seeing, oh my God, it's all one system, not several. So intelligence is not one. It's many. And this brings us back to the question of artificial intelligence and should we be afraid of it or not? And what can humans do? Well, it's not one. If you look at the various definitions of artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence is addressing, AI is addressing cognitive intelligence. Logical, mathematical. It only simulates emotional intelligence or other levels of intelligence. And here you find various breakdowns, values, what's significant. They simulate it, but they, at this point, without the integration with human biology, they won't be able to address, other issues like morals and spiritual. I have also looked at Howard Gardner, who came up with the various other levels of types of intelligences or talents. But we can talk about it later on in the conversation. We don't have time to go deeper here. Now, what I'd like to point is why people incumbents cannot see, because they start with me, the world is like me, like a 2-year-old, with us, an ethnocentric view of the world, to the evolution, to awakening to all of us, and the next level, all of it. So we move from an egocentric evolution of individual evolution to ethnocentric, to world-centric, to universal or cosmocentric. And this is what we need to achieve in order to awaken to addressing the planetary needs, which is not an easy thing to do, but you're here because you're curious. You're here because you get this. You're here because you're going to make this possible. And so the hidden determinant is, of course, evolution. And human psychology, here you see a psychograph, something that I'm using and applying in my own investments and entrepreneurship endeavors. And we only invest in entrepreneurs who are at the top, who have a world-centric view of the world, because we believe with the capital that is made available to them, they should be able to really address all the needs of all the planet and all the humans, and not just their own egocentric or ethnocentric view of the world. So the incumbents do not respond because they cannot. And now I'd like to spend a few more minutes on what makes integral investing different. Now that we have agreed that this is what we need to do, given the fact that there is limited amount of capital, no matter how much abundance we're creating in the world, you still have limited amounts of capital. But how can you de-risk the investments? And I just want to put it in brackets here. I consider the entrepreneur to be the greatest investor in his or her enterprise, in their enterprise, because they work around the clock. So the view that the investor is, the one who gives money is something special needs to get out the window. But de-risking is important. And how do you make sure that with the limited resource that you have, time, money, mentorship, whatever, that you invested into the right team and the right people? And here is what I call the theta model, where we focus on the 10 times the impact and not just 10%, because the planet does not allow us to take long time. We only have 10 to 15 years. And here is the value chain creation, from deal screening to due diligence, where you make sure that you decide, how to invest, to investment execution up to the exit. And you find it all in this book that I just introduced before. So there are 5 steps to integral investing. Step 1 is what everyone does: look at the business plan, financial, legal, commercial due diligence. And number 2 is, what is the impact? You need to look, how are these people going to implement the UN SDGs within planetary boundaries, within the time allotted? Then the team is extremely important, and it starts, of course, with individual assessments in the team. Are the people really truly going to be able to deliver what they promise together with the team? And then we make a decision. So we can break it down a little bit. I don't want to spend too much time on the individual due diligence processes because particularly in deep tech and AI, conventional evaluation metrics are difficult. But you need a lot of experts, and I would highly encourage everyone to really hire those and talk to those and build a network of extraordinary smart people that are available everywhere once you begin to open up. Here is an example from an investment that we've made in creating energy, fusion energy for everyone using quantum algorithms and quantum and artificial intelligence. We can talk about it later. So it's extraordinary what is currently happening out in the world. Fusion reactors is one energy creator that is very promising. Then we also invested in sustainable data centers because they're mushrooming with the usage of AI, and it's extremely important that you cool with water instead of air. You're saving a lot of construction cost, construction materials that are not good for the environment. The second step is applying the UN SDGs within planetary boundaries as a metrics on how making sure that people are addressing the planetary boundaries. Step number 3, individual assessment, and here's a whole set of intelligences that are being measured and can be measured. Another investment example for sustainability is what we call in German the Energiewende, the building an energy solution where in terms of software, where you can feed in heterogeneous sources of energy. And the energy network needs to be available at every point in time. And it's not an easy thing to do. It was also coming back to the fact, does it pay off to do good? Yes, you can make a lot of money. Really, our case was 75 exit. The previous case was 7 exit. So it pays off to invest in sustainability solutions. Then step number 3 is how do you evaluate the team? It's extremely important that you look at the collaborative capacity, whether they can think in bigger terms, world-centric versus egocentric views, how high is their cognitive complexity. This is a tool that we are applying from that was developed by Harvard University within Harvard. It's called LDMA. There are many. You can find them all in various publications that I've done, including the book. Here's another example. I don't want to go into the details because I'd like to leave more time for talking and conversation. So the team assessment, we look at the 5 dysfunctions of a team that you can find in the book by Patrick Lencioni. It's extraordinary. To make sure once you go into the assessment to see what are the holes in the team, are they working like one, or what else do they need? It is extremely important that we do these assessments in order to find out how the team can be supported. Not to throw them out or something. No, we need to find a baseline for the kind of support that they need later on. And we allocate about 3% of our investment money to the team development, extremely vertical development in this case, of course. Quantum computing is extremely important. Quantum algorithms is even more important, is available today. This is another example of an investment where we use AI and quantum algorithms in our portfolio, or also using AR, VR for addressing unconscious bias, also in people. It's another application. And this is then the analysis that we do before we go out. So in summary, my moonshot is the investment turnaround. We need to make sure that we will exist, that we do have a future, and that nobody's left behind by 2050. 90% of the solutions are available technologically. We just need to do them. And that should give us a lot of hope. We have a unique window of opportunities between the crisis that we're currently facing and the opportunities, the law of abundance and accelerated returns. And the motto is AI or die. We must use AI because it can help us develop new materials, new medicine in all areas of life. But we need to make sure that we avoid LLM's hallucination. Between 19 and 41%, they hallucinate. They just create something that doesn't really exist there. As opposed to that, there are the LQMs that are currently being developed, which are large qualitative models where equations in science and technology and engineering are being applied using artificial intelligence. It's a much more cumbersome development. Then there are many levels of intelligences. We need to make sure that we use them ethically and develop beneficial AI. Using deep technologies, which are the way to go. We need to use a lot of science here to address the problems that we have. We are non-computable. We are part of a complex universe. And yeah, we can create massive prosperity. Deep tech is key. Exponential technologies provide the abundance that we need, but we just need to do them. So anyways, with that, you guys are at the forefront, and we can prove Jürgen Rander's wrong, and which is what he wants. And if you think you're too small to make a difference, try sleeping with a mosquito. And here is to you all.
Yeah. Oh.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Bozesan. That was marvelous. Really, really, really. Especially that ending. I think there's something about transpersonal psychology that is just exactly that, right? And everything you've talked about really goes into this thinking of how do we handle these complexities, right? So we can go from personality structure, which is individual, all the way into societal structure, all the way into cultural structure. And then in the transpersonal, inevitably, we always end up in, this idea, this cosmocentric view, because you have no choice. I want to say, because if you're going to be locked in the structure, inevitably, you're going to recreate the patterns of the past in some sort of way, which is what you were bringing up with the book as well, right? And so this ability to go beyond that is so important, and to think about the possibilities. You can only do that by really going into yourself and then your colleagues and your circles and saying, then let's all think about how community can go beyond these structures as well. Yeah. So people are enthusiastic. We have a live stream as well, where the translation is running simultaneously. And there's a lot of people here who just wanted to come in and hear you in English. So that's who we have here, just for your understanding. Yeah, so thank you for bringing it in this way. There is one question that comes to mind right away, at least for me, or maybe it did before. We seem to have an obsession with growth, right? I mean, we do in business for an obvious reason, because, you know, you have to make a certain amount of profits, at least in the system. So that is tied to growth in our understanding. But is it really? Because when we're dealing with, as you so clearly stated, a resource of the earth that may be finite in the way that we address it, inevitably there is this question, you know, can we, and is it even important? I mean, aren't we just recycling the wheel somewhere, you know, in this obsession with growth? I mean, is it a wheel, or are we really progressing? Where are we progressing to? So just a question. I mean, maybe more philosophically, and you know, taking all of this rich information, and by the way, we will be you know, advertising your book too, because I think this is really important, bringing all of this together. So yeah, so what do you think about this way of maybe fundamentally approaching growth as a base needs to be shifted too?
Yeah, and as you pointed out, it's not a simple thing. It's not just one thing, because we're looking at it in an integrated and systemic view. It's not enough. We need the interior dimensions as well. So yes, well, in terms of grow economically, if you look at nature, the first law of nature is you either grow or you die. That's the first law of nature, not economics. But nature has pauses. It pauses in the winter and it goes in the background, it dies. And it's not circular. That's why I do not like the term circular economics. There is, by the way, there is a book that was published by the Germans, The Impossibilities of Circular Economy, because circular is not the right term. We have a spiral. So evolutionary spiral, where you evolve from egocentric, ethnocentric, world-centric to the next, is what's actually what needs to happen, because we need human ingenuity. You cannot degrow that, people in their heads. And if you look at the technological evolution that I just pointed out, where you have the 6Ds, it's with ingenuity, you come to the dematerialization, which is degrowth. You make everything smaller because more intelligence goes into something material that is then smaller. So you are German, limits to growth. We all grew up with the book, but Aurelio Peccei, the founder of the Club of Rome, he wrote a book, No Limits to Learning.
Yes.
So that's why we need to keep the balance in terms of producing materials and more garbage and plastic and blah, blah, blah. That needs to stop. On the other hand, we need to still provide a means of living for an ever-growing world population, but is, where we can provide for every one of us in a different way, in a more dematerialized way. We don't need to throw stuff away and produce more things that doesn't provide the joy and happiness, and as we've seen from my dissertation. So it's a very complex topic, but to believe that putting out degrowth out there as an alternative to growth. That's not it. That would be wrong.
Mm-mm.
Because
So
we need a very differentiated view, and it's very complex.
yeah. So I understand what you're saying. I mean, you're just shifting the whole paradigm, right? Basically. So
We must. Yeah.
it's not growth or no growth. It's just taking that dual perception and putting it to the side and really saying, okay, if we approach it from that, cosmological view point, then where are we going? Which is, yes, there's cycles, there's rhythms, and so then in a way we are very much in this realm of the physicality, but approaching physicality in a different way. And I think this is so key, because from that premise, from that worldview, you can go back into all the things you were presenting today, which is investment, which is business, which is doing anything in the world. So that to me is a beautiful summary of how you're shifting that and how you are proposing that we shift that, and it is absolutely fundamentally a transpersonal view. That's beautiful. I do have
Star Trek: The Next Generation, where you have
yes.
the replicator, and so there is no garbage. You put the stuff in there, it gets recycled, and you always get the fresh stuff. And if you remember in one of the I don't remember the name of the episode, but when they kind of found a rocket where many people were frozen until the time when their disease could be addressed, and then they thought them and then this guy said, oh, I need to go to Switzerland, I have in the meantime I have a lot of money. And they said, well, we don't have money on the earth anymore, and because we don't need it. Right? You always get what you need, which is, by the way, what Karl Marx said many 100 years ago. And you only get what you need, and then the rest you don't need to create garbage. And then he said, well, what do? You don't care about money anymore. And Picard said, well, we focus on our personal growth, becoming better humans. And what a great answer is that.
Yes, and I think that this AI, actually in its stupidity, as you put it, gives us exactly that opportunity, right? Because it can take and support us in some of the rudimentary approaches that we need to address, and then do more of these things and engage more in these things that are basically extremely human in that cannot be replicated. So it's a land of opportunity. But we got a question in, hold on, how can businesses and investors ensure their strategies are inclusive and equitable across different socioeconomic groups? I thought that was a good question. And then we have some here also that I'm going to read. So what do you think?
Well, as I tried to explain with my integral investing model, you cannot separate. You cannot, if you are using right hand to right, you're not cutting up your left hand because you said you don't need it. But that's what we're doing in our economic system. Today, when an entrepreneur the system is rigged, is the answer. So when an entrepreneur wants to start a company today, at least in Germany, and most of the world, they have to make a decision. Is it for profit, not for profit?
Yep.
Why do I have to make that decision? Why do I have to do one thing at the expense of the other when we are a whole on? So at the end of the day, I'm not going to eat money, drink, or breathe it when the planet is burning. In the other way, if you are financially not sustainable in a not-for-profit, you cannot survive. So you're dependent upon going to other people to beg. And what you see, and this is what actually helped me create that integral investing model, when I saw, well, on one hand, there are these people who pretend, oh, I'm an NGO, I'm better than, right? Pointing fingers, but then they go to those who have money, compete with one another for the same thing that they're actually rejecting. So this is schizophrenia at its best. So we need to really study transpersonal psychology to come to terms, and integrate within ourselves that there is no separation. We are a holon. So those of you who haven't heard of Arthur Koestler, go and study him. We are one holon. We are not separate. And just because our systems have evolved in a very unhealthy manner, it doesn't mean that we need to follow suit. We need to come back and integrate again, because we all are born naked and are going to die naked. And we don't know where we're coming from, where we're going. But in the meantime, we should not create what somebody said, outside of God.
Mm-mm. So we had Dr. Jude Caravan here on the last Fireside Chat. You may want to check that out, because that's exactly her point.
I know Judy. Yeah.
You do? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Great. Like, I kind of figured that you may, right? So,
yeah.
And she just put out this movie about exactly that. And it's like, we cannot approach things from that broken perspective. And I love the fact that you brought in, this business, like when we make these business decisions, starting a company, is it for profit? Is it not for profit? And correctly so, it has to actually integrate both elements, because it's not possible, which I think the B Corps, they've been trying to do that, but it's so complex and so convoluted that in a way they haven't had much. I think they've not had enough traction with that. So maybe there is another model coming, and certainly what you're proposing, we're seeing a shift. It's going to be fundamental. I think 2025 is going to provide us with a lot of these things. So it's really important for, for everyone here, our community, to really study these things that you've put in the room, and come up with some maybe solutions on an individual level on how we approach business or how we approach our lives, right? So if you're not going to start a business, or you're not working in business, that's still applicable. I mean, because we all need to eat and make money in some way, like you said. Here's a question too. May I know more about the food made by AI? Okay, so yes, there's a lot happening in that area. Will it be healthy enough? They're proposing these things. Apparently it tastes good. I haven't tasted it. I don't know if you have. What's the boundary in the AI food as to our diet? But I mean, is it really AI? It's manufactured food. So it's available at I believe. So do you want to answer that direction?
Yeah, it's available everywhere and people eat it. They're not even aware of it. And the thing is, it's just with the same situation we had with COVID, when people rejected vaccines because they were developed too quickly, just because the technology had advanced, and they, it didn't need 10 years of development. It could be done within 2 months because the technology was so advanced, but it's still the same thing. And so it requires a lot of scientific involvement and understanding in order to respond to this question. It's science at work, and artificial intelligence is being used to accelerate these developments. For instance, protein folding, the development of new protein, particularly when it comes to cancer. We need systems, and AIs can do that much, much faster than humans can. And it was actually born before AI was ready and LLMs were ready. Scientists worked with gamers who worked to develop games and worked to create protein folding and see how proteins are being folded in order to create medicine and new solutions for various, new materials using AI. So this is a very complex process that takes place. It's not nothing outside of God, as I see RIDS. There is nothing outside of God. So everything that comes from humans is within God. So we need to position and question our questions and the way we think when we pose such questions, because it's human ingenuity, collective intelligence that comes together and helps us accelerate something that might be very difficult for us to understand. So this is not food created by AI. These are humans using collective intelligence to uplift humanity and feed the population. So even though today we're not riding horses anymore, we're riding cars, we're still riding horses for fun. And in a similar manner, we come up with solutions for cancer, for many, many other diseases that exist, the Alzheimer's and others, using technology that helps accelerate the research. I'm currently an investor in many of these things because it's such an extraordinary and empowering thing to witness and be part of, and I find this extremely positive. And so if you look, you could find you find the Impossible Burger. You can try it. Some of them taste, you don't see the difference. With my husband and I, we eat those once a week. It's made of it looks like meat, but it's actually agriculture products make to look like a burger, and it tastes extraordinarily well. I am because I have been a raw food vegan for more than 35 years. I became extremely allergic because all this vegan movements and all this stuff is not one solution for everyone. We're all different. But because I exaggerated, I'm allergic. I wrote books on the topic, vegan and how good that is and so on. And now I'm allergic against 80% of stuff because we know so little about the human biology and biology in general and the planet and being human. So we need to take everything with a grain of salt, not be too radical and be on the extremes, and honor the various differences between humans. We're not all the same. We should not be all vegan because some respond well. There are 3 different blood types and many mixtures in between. Some may work for some and some may not work for others. So we need to be very careful and be smart about it.
Yeah. And that's that in internal knowing that we also use so much in transpersonal, is like being in touch with yourself and self-aware. And then in that way, you can always check, is this something that is working for me? Is it not? Do I need to change something in my nutrition? And yes, you're addressing the blood type diets, and very rightly so. Yeah. So there is that, because people always come to us. I also do work with cancer patients and metastatic cancer patients, and really there is no one diet. They find their way to wellness and the ability to live a high quality life by really paying attention to what is good for me, what is not. And so I encourage this type of experimentation. But yes, I mean, it's a really great question, because we have all these things that are going to be out there in the stores, and the discernment needs to be there. So yes and yes. So I wanted to go back to one question that says, can you, you know, say something about transpersonal leadership comparing with your book? Well, her book is about transpersonal leadership. It's just that she went right into the crux of the question and took this apart. So I don't know if your book is it available in a Chinese translation by any chance? Time to get it translated. Oh, you're muted.
It's been published by Springer, so it's an international. So if there is a, yeah, it should be translated.
I think
and
that one
it,
is
yeah.
referring back to your dissertation and that that first book. Do you have that in?
Yeah, I do. Let me get it. It's here. This is it's actually in the Sofia library. That's been
Okay,
published.
so
Yeah.
so that's the one I was just, I think that she was naming that, or they were naming that, and wanted to know, you know, how it compares to transpersonal. And again, it's like, this is transpersonal, right? Like in
This is my dissertation in transpersonal. I got my PhD in transpersonal psychology for it.
So that one, is it available in?
Yeah, it's available on Amazon, but not in Chinese, of course. I'd be happy. It shouldn't be a problem to translate, not in this day and age.
So that maybe you want to consider that. So yes, because there's interest in this. This is really important, Mariana. Thank you for sharing this. Okay. I'm 90 blood type O positive, 90% vegan. Yeah, so the blood type O, by the way, are those that are meat eaters. So, you know, trying these meat-based AI products might be just a way to do it. So you're saying that you can eat them? Have you tried them?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, it's protein. And the good thing is, you know, we are emptying our oceans, you know, of fish, and humans eat everything. Now, with precision fermentation, you can create different proteins outside of, you know, the fish in the ocean, outside of cows, or and so on. You can create similar proteins out of cells without having to kill animals to raise them, to put CO2 emissions, to empty the oceans, and have many, many more proteins for humans that are good for us than the ones that we're currently eating, which are very limited amount of, you know, types of proteins. Proteins exist. There are so many more. And so, and this is not, you know, how should I say? It's not voodoo. It's science. And, you know, so we're using medications and stuff, and we've been doing it all along. We're just very limited in it. So all it needs to change is our mindset.
Yeah, that's all. Okay.
No kidding.
I think, to your point, that's like the place where we all get stuck, right? Because you cannot not see what you can't see, which goes back also, you know, to some of the things that you're addressing and that you're investing in, is exactly that.
I'm reading, excuse me, I'm reading it. Generally speaking, Chinese people have fewer allergies. Thank God they do, because you guys have eaten so healthily all along, vegetables and so healthily. But wait, look at the Japanese, look at until the Western culture is entering. And, you know, I remember when we were in Beijing, and, you know, people are eating pommes frites and, you know, fries. And when the Western sugary culture is taking, you know, entering the society, how all of a sudden all these allergies start showing up. But that would be another fireside chat that I'd like to have, because I have studied food and nutrition for a long time too.
Yeah, so let's do that. Too much meat in these 2 decades. Yes. You know, it's like nobody, everything is changing, and there is this aspect of like trying different things and new things, and depending on, you know, what cultures we meet each other, maybe some of our habits get mixed up and we want to do things differently, so we try that. And maybe also that biologically, then, you know, it depends on how one's body growing up in a certain area then digests in a certain way based on what you're used to eating, you know, family wise too, because that's part of your genetics. And so, you know, it's like Dr. Bozesan said, it's not an easy answer. It really is. The only tool that we have for this is really self-awareness. Yeah. And so I don't know if you saw that, but Sofia China team would be happy to do the translation of the book, so that we'll take them up on that.
Yeah, please let me
Awesome.
know. Get in touch with me.
Yeah.
I mean, let's work together. We're all in the same boat. We need to
Yeah.
support each other.
Yeah. So I have another question, which is relating to the amount of energy that you know, the servers like for AI and so on use. And that brings me to the next question, because this has been, you know, a topic lately in terms of nuclear energy. Like, what do you think about that, using the nuclear energy to you know, harness, but then we end up with a problem with the waste. Anyway, so what is your stance on that?
Yeah, well, it's humans are well known to not save stuff. They, you know, if something is available, they're going to use it more, not less. So we need to make stuff, you know, cheaper and readily available and more sustainable. So nuclear is everything. So not the traditional fission energy, which are the ones with the garbage that you mentioned, where you need all kinds of radioactive garbage, which is of course terrible. But then there is fusion energy, which I mentioned, in which I am invested, which does not have that. And this is what up and coming. It's not yet available because it's still under development, but it doesn't produce the kind of garbage, so it's really sustainable. Fact is, humanity within the next 25 years, humanity will need 5 times more energy than today, because of the way evolution takes place and how everyone is having, you know, a phone and computers and of course, rightly so. And so providing the energy at net zero and below is the key. And this is what's currently happening. And I showed you a picture with the stellarator, where AI is using quantum technology and artificial intelligence technology to design those stellarators, which I don't want to go into the details, that produce the fusion energy at no garbage and no it's expensive for the time being until it comes online. Now, when it comes to we need a transition. We need solutions for the transition until fusion energy is available, and solar energy and all the entire infrastructure it has been developed. And in the meantime, nuclear energy needs to step in. I hate to say that, I'm not up for it, but we need to stay warm. We need to feed people. And so in the transition phase, until these alternative energies are coming online within the next 10 to 15 years, we need, and this is what's happening. Otherwise, we'll have the polarity in the society will increase. People, have to be fed, have to be taken care of. So it's, I wish we had planned more, but people didn't. And so in the meantime, that's the situation.
Yeah. So the fusion energy, it is interesting. Yes, there's some
Yeah.
people in Silicon Valley who, like, ironically enough, who started this type of thing like a while ago. And yeah, fascinating that you named that. Okay, well, it's good. You know what I think is really important for everyone here, and you know, for this community and for the people who are looking for different solutions, is to remember that there are possibilities, right? So there's a lot of you know, some people are reacting with a doomsday, you know, and there's always more possibilities. So to go ahead, and that's that mindset too that you're addressing, right? So it's like going into that view, staying there, and then, you know, which is maybe also a Taoist approach, right? Of like really like trusting the way, and that, you know, there will be solutions when we need them, in a way. So that's nice. Thank you for the fusion energy part. And yeah, and there's things that we need to bridge, right? So in between, there's a lot of bridging that needs to be done.